On May 24th, 15 BC, in the heart of Rome, a baby was born who, from his first breath, was burdened with a great destiny. His name was Germanicus Julius Caesar. He was no mere child of nobility. He was the crossroads of two of the most powerful dynasties in Roman history. His father, Nero Claudius Drusus, was a brilliant general, conqueror of the Germanic tribes, beloved warrior of the legions, and the military hope of the empire. His mother, Antonia Minor, was the daughter of Mark Antony and Octavia, the sister of Caesar Augustus himself, with the blood of Caesar, Claudius, and Antony flowing through his veins. Rome seemed to see its own future in this baby. The name Germanicus was no ordinary name. It was a triumphal title, an honorary inheritance from his father, a symbol of Roman glory in a wild and deadly foreign land. From birth, he was not given the option of a normal life. He was born to lead, to be loved, and, unbeknownst to him, to be a threat to those in power. Germanicus grew up amidst court intrigue, in the shadow of Caesar Augustus, and his successor, Tiberius, an uncle, an emperor, and later, a silent rival. But from childhood, something was different. He was humble, intelligent, and possessed a natural charisma that made the people, senators, and especially the Roman army, place their hopes in him. Unbeknownst to him, that love of the people would be both a blessing and a curse. For in Rome, there was no sin more dangerous than being too loved. This is the story of a man, born as the hope of the empire, but whose life ended in mystery, betrayal, and tragedy. This is the story of Germanicus. Germanicus grew up not in an ordinary home, but in the midst of the Roman imperial court, where power and suspicion coexisted. But his childhood was not filled with empty luxury. He was raised with discipline, moral values, and a sense of responsibility, instilled by his mother, Antonia Minor, a strong, intelligent woman, known for upholding family honor. From an early age, Germanicus was educated in rhetoric, philosophy, law, and Greek literature, the finest education offered to future Roman leaders. He learned to speak in public, to write speeches, and to understand how words can be mightier than the sword. But his life changed forever when tragedy struck prematurely. His father, Nero Claudius Drusus, died when Germanicus was still very young. Rome mourned. The legions wept for the loss of their beloved general, and Germanicus had lost their greatest role model. From then on, he grew up in the shadow of his father's great name, a legacy of glory he had to live up to. To secure his future, Emperor Augustus took a crucial political step. Germanicus was formally adopted by Tiberius, brother of the late Drusus and heir to the imperial throne. On paper, this was the highest honor. In reality, however, it placed Germanicus squarely in the middle of a dangerous power struggle. Despite this, Germanicus did not grow up to be an arrogant young man. He was known for his humility, his closeness to the common people, and his treating of soldiers as brothers, not subordinates. As a teenager, he was often seen living with the legionaries, experiencing the rigors of military life, trekking alongside soldiers, and sharing the same food. It was there that he learned a crucial lesson. A soldier's loyalty cannot be forced by rank. It is earned through trust and empathy. Slowly but surely, Germanicus' name began to resonate, not because of the crown, not because of his royal blood, but because of who he truly was. Unbeknownst to him, the seeds of love among the people and the army had grown strong. And in Rome, when too much hope rests on one man, then great destiny and great danger will soon follow. The early years of the 1st century AD, to the north of the Roman Empire lay a wild land called Germania, a misty, heavily forested region, and teeming with tribes who refused to submit to Rome. Here, Rome's name had been shamed. A few years earlier, 3 Roman legions had been annihilated. At the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, tens of thousands of soldiers had died. Rome's eagle banners had been captured, and the empire was haunted by one famous phrase, "Varus, give me back my legions." Now, a young man was sent to restore that honor, Germanicus, appointed commander of the legions in Germania. He inherited an army traumatized, weary, and on the verge of losing confidence. But Germanicus did not come as a tyrant. He walked among the soldiers. He listened to their complaints, and he promised one thing: Rome would not flee from this wound. When Emperor Augustus died, and Tiberius ascended the throne, tensions exploded. The legions in Germania rebelled, demanding higher pay and shorter terms of service. The situation nearly escalated into civil war. Germanicus faced an impossible choice: exterminate his own legions, or win their favor. He chose a third path. With an emotional speech, he calmed the troops, rejected the power the army had offered, and restored discipline, without much bloodshed. From that day on, the legion's loyalty was absolute. Then, the real war began. Germanicus led a major assault into the heart of Germania. Forests were burned, enemy fortresses were destroyed, and one by one, the tribes that had once despised Rome were driven back. He even discovered the Teutoburg killing fields, the scattered bones of legions. Years after the tragedy, with solemn ceremony, Germanicus buried the fallen soldiers, restored their long-lost honor. He reclaimed the Roman legionary eagle, the most sacred symbol of the empire. For the Roman people, this was more than a military victory. It was national redemption. Germanicus' name was celebrated. Statues were erected. His story spread through the streets of Rome. But behind the roar of victory, a shadow began to grow. Each of Germanicus' victories made one man increasingly uneasy: Emperor Tiberius. In the eyes of the people, Germanicus was now more than just a general. He was a true hero of Rome. And in the empire, heroes who shine too brightly often have short lives. Germanicus' victory in Germania echoed throughout the empire. The people cheered. The Senate praised him. The legions chanted his name louder than the emperor's. And in Rome, Tiberius listened to it all. Officially, Tiberius was Germanicus's adoptive father, a seasoned, cold, and keenly aware of threats. But beneath that title, a suspicion grew that was never voiced. Germanicus was young, popular, and beloved by the army, all things Tiberius lacked. Soon, a court order came. Germanicus was recalled from Germania. The war was not over. The enemy was not completely vanquished, but the emperor wanted a quieter victory and a more benign hero. Instead, Germanicus was given a new assignment. He was sent to the empire's eastern provinces, a rich, strategic region, but rife with deadly political intrigue. Officially, this was a promotion, but many saw it as a disguised exile. In the east, Germanicus was not alone. Tiberius appointed Gnaeus Calpurnius Piso as governor of Syria, a stubborn man, loyal to the emperor, and a disliker of Germanicus. From the beginning, their relationship was fraught with conflict. Piso defied Germanicus's orders, ignored his authority, even openly belittled the Roman prince. Germanicus, accustomed to the loyalty of soldiers, was now caught in a war without swords, a political war, intrigue, provocation, and betrayal. Ironically, wherever Germanicus went, the people still loved him. In Greece, in Egypt, in Syria, he spoke to the people, respected local traditions, and ruled with compassion. Each warm welcome was a chilling report back to Rome. Tiberius grew increasingly restless, and amidst the tension, something began to change. Germanicus fell ill. At first, it was mild, then it worsened, and as the days went by, it became more and more suspicious. Germanicus was convinced that he had been poisoned. Strange evidence was found in his residence: dark amulets, cursed inscriptions, and death symbols. It all pointed to one name: Piso. But before the truth was revealed, Germanicus's time was running out, and Rome was not ready for what would happen next. In the city of Antioch, far from his beloved Rome, Germanicus lay weak. His body was growing thinner. His voice was fading, but his mind remained clear. He knew his life was being taken, not by fate, but by betrayal. With his dying breath, Germanicus called out to those closest to him. He did not seek revenge. He only asked for justice, and to his wife, Agrippina Major. He left one final message: "Do not let my death be in vain." In 19 AD, Germanicus died at the age of 34. The news of his death struck Rome like a thunderbolt. The people mourned. Markets were closed. The ceremonies were halted. In the streets of Rome, people wept, as if they had lost their own emperor. The Senate demanded an investigation. Piso's name was brought before the court. Serious charges were leveled: poisoning, treason, and the murder of the heir to the empire. But the truth in Rome rarely emerges unscathed. Before the verdict was delivered, Piso was found to have committed suicide or silenced. The biggest question remained: did Piso act alone, or simply carry out orders that were never written down? Tiberius was never convicted. He was never officially investigated. But in the people's memory, his name was forever tied to the death of Germanicus. Though his life was short, Germanicus' legacy was long. His son would ascend the throne as Caligula, a tragic irony. His great-grandson would become a great emperor, Nero. But to the Roman people, Germanicus remained one thing: the emperor they never had. He is remembered not for his crown, but for his courage, compassion, and honor. In the history of Rome, many rulers reigned long, but only a few are truly loved. Germanicus was one of them, because sometimes, in an empire built on fear, hope is the greatest threat. Roman history is replete with great emperors, but more rarely, history remembers those who should have been emperors. Germanicus was one of them. He had everything Rome needed: noble blood, military glory, political savvy, and, most dangerously, the love of the people and the army. But Rome was not a country that gave crowns to the most worthy. It gave crowns to the most resilient. Germanicus's death left a power vacuum. Tiberius became increasingly reclusive. The court grew increasingly suspicious, and the empire slowly drifted into an era of fear and cruelty. If Germanicus had lived longer, would Rome have chosen a different path? Would history have known an emperor who ruled with honor, not terror? That question has never been answered. But one thing is certain: the people's love for Germanicus never died. He became the gold standard for Rome's ideal leader, a benchmark never again reached. Even Roman historians write of him with a sense of loss, not because he failed, but because he was never given a chance. Germanicus taught a timeless lesson. In a system built on fear, kindness can be seen as weakness, and hope often has to be cast aside. But precisely because of this, Germanicus' name lives on, not as a ruler, but as a symbol of a Rome that almost existed, but never did. Tiberius was an unwanted Roman emperor who ascended the throne. After the death of Augustus in 14 AD, he was unpopular among the Roman people, and his reign was marked by authoritarian rule and oppression. Early life. Tiberius grew up in a very influential family, but he did not have a close relationship with his father, Tiberius Claudius Nero. His mother, Livia Drusilla, was a very influential woman, and she played a major role in determining Tiberius's fate. Political career. Tiberius began his political career at a young age, and he *quickly rose to prominence in Rome. He became consul in 13 BC, and he led the Roman army to victory in several battles. Roman Emperor. Tiberius became Roman Emperor in 14 AD after the death of Augustus. He was unwanted by the Roman people, and his reign was marked by authoritarian rule and oppression. Death. Tiberius died in 37 AD, and he was succeeded by Caligula, who would become one of the most famous Roman emperors. Tiberius' death served as a reminder that authoritarian rule can breed resentment and opposition. The shadow of Germanicus haunts Tiberius. Tiberius, the Roman emperor, could not escape the shadow of Germanicus. Germanicus's name continued to haunt him, reminding him of his own shortcomings. The Roman people constantly compared Tiberius with Germanicus, and the results were not favorable for Tiberius. They remembered Germanicus as a brave and successful general, while Tiberius was considered cold and unpopular. The Roman soldiers also remembered Germanicus with respect and admiration. They remembered how Germanicus led them to victories in Germany and Syria, while Tiberius was considered a man of less military prowess. The Roman Senate also whispered about Germanicus, speaking of his kindness and courage. Every compliment to Germanicus felt like an insult to Tiberius, making him feel increasingly insecure and unsure of himself. After Germanicus's death, something inside Tiberius cracked forever. He withdrew from public life, becoming increasingly cold and hostile. He began to see betrayal everywhere, and his rule became increasingly authoritarian and oppressive. Tiberius couldn't escape Germanicus's shadow, and this made him increasingly unpopular and disliked by the Roman people. The dark reign of Tiberius. Tiberius ruled Rome with an iron fist, using fear and law to eliminate anyone he deemed a threat to his power. The treason laws became Tiberius' main tool for destroying his enemies. Senators deemed disloyal were accused without evidence, and noble families were destroyed by false accusations. The execution became a political spectacle, with Tiberius using his power to demonstrate his strength and cruelty. Rome was no longer ruled by a wise and just emperor, but rather by suspicion and fear. The Roman people lived in a state of insecurity, not knowing when they would become the next victims of Tiberius' cruelty. Atmosphere of fear. The atmosphere in Rome became very dark and scary. The people did not dare to talk about politics, did not dare to criticize the emperor, and did not dare to show any signs of disloyalty. Everyone lives in fear, not knowing what will happen tomorrow. Tiberius had turned Rome into a state ruled by fear, and the Roman people became victims of his cruelty.